Hi everyone and welcome to my second channel. What you're about to see is a clip from one of the videos that I have posted over on my main channel. But I've listened to your guys' feedback and I know that not all of you have time for the big several hour long deep dives, even though a lot of you love them as well. So I'm hoping by breaking down some of those big heavier videos into shorter, more digestible clips like this, more of you can enjoy them and get a little bit of, I don't know, education, fun, interesting passing time stuff out of the clips over on this main channel. And if you find something that catches your interest, there'll be plenty more clips for you to watch, or you can go over to my main channel and watch the video in full. Either way, I hope you enjoy and thank you for watching.
What is a social construct? What do we mean when we say virginity is a social construct? And what impact does our idea of virginity and our relationship with virginity have on people and society as a whole? And again, I'd like to cut back to myself talking in a couple of videos from this last year, if that's okay. I've got two clips for you here, one in which I talk about what it means for something to be a social construct. The particular clip I'm using here uses the example of aging to discuss the topic, but the same thing can be applied to any number of other social constructs, not just our relationship with aging, but other things like gender, virginity, our definition of childhood, and basically any other number of social constructs. And then the second clip I have for you is me specifically talking about why we define virginity as being a social construct. And please exclude the sound quality in that. It's my big, long 6-hour Bethany Beals single course review thing. It's a long video to film. I had mic issues. Sorry about that. It's only for a couple of minutes, so hopefully it'll be better afterwards. But let's be very clear on one thing before we go any further, right? While the concept of aging is a biological reality, we can't deny that, our relationship with aging is a social construct. This means that the way we view aging, how much we value it or don't, what our opinions are, how we treat people differently as they age, all of that will change depending on time, place, and culture. That means it is a social construct. Now, I think what a lot of people misunderstand about the term social construct is just because it's a social construct, that doesn't mean it's fake or not real or that it doesn't exist or it makes something made up. What it means is that our definition of it changes with time, place, and culture. Our definition of it, our understanding of it, our value of it is something which is changing over time. It has changed over time, it will continue to change over time. So because we can say that our view of aging is a social construct, this means that it's really important to remember that just because one person might pick out a certain time period or place or culture and say, in these conditions, this is the view of aging, that doesn't make that the only correct way to view aging. There's no objective definition of loss of virginity from a biological or physiological perspective. There's no obvious physical change for males after they've had sex for the first time, and there's no universal physical change for all females after they've had sex for the first time. The idea that hymens break after you've had sex is an outdated one. All hymens are different shapes, different sizes, different placements, different levels of stretchiness. Some do break or tear or change via activities like sex or activities other than sex. Some hymens will never break or tear no matter how many times you have sex or do any other activities. If you are interested in finding out a little bit more about this, then I recommend Flo Perry's book, How to Have Feminist Sex, which is great. It's cute, it's short, it's fun, it's accessible, it's got some beautiful artwork in it, and it's a really, really great little resource. Otherwise, there's a great section in Emily Nagoski's Come As You Are, where she writes, you may or may not have a hymen, which is a thin membrane along the lower edge of your vaginal opening. She goes on to say the hymen doesn't break or stay broken forever like some kind of freshness seal. If a hymen tears or bruises, it heals, and the size of a hymen doesn't vary depending on whether a vagina has been penetrated. Also, it doesn't usually bleed. Any blood with first penetration is more likely due to general vaginal tearing from lack of lubrication than damage to the hymen. She goes on to say, what does change when a woman begins having the hymen stretch regularly is that it grows more flexible. And as a woman's hormones change as she approaches the end of adolescence around 25 years old, the hymen is likely to atrophy and become much less noticeable, if it was noticeable at all. There's a massive variation in how hymens can look and act and feel and where they're placed. There's not just one way to have a hymen. This is what I mean, it's not a universal thing. So to look back at this in the context of virginity, If it's not defined by something physical and biological, then we can say the only way it's actually defined is by society, and those definitions can change with time and place and culture. Therefore, it's a social construct. Traditional ideas of virginity are so narrow that most people only ever think about intercourse where a penis penetrates a vagina as being real sex where you can lose your virginity. But these traditional definitions of virginity don't take into account other ways to have sex. They don't take into account same-sex couples. They don't take into account how it differs for different people with different preferences. Is loss of virginity really about just having or putting a penis in a vagina? Or is there more to it than that? Can a gay man or woman never really have sex if they never have a penis put in their vagina or never put their penis in a vagina? Even if they're regularly having sex with other women or anal sex with other men. In terms of both genders, where does anal sex fall into this discussion? If you're a woman who has had anal sex but not vaginal, are you a virgin or not? What about oral sex? What about touching each other with hands? If so, where on the body? Do orgasms come into the definition of all? And ultimately, we have to ask, why does it matter? Why do we need to talk about virginity at all? Why do we put value on virginity? And maybe we should stop. As Ricky Bergen writes, virginity has been used as a marker of purity and morality, but neither of these virtues were necessarily strictly about the girl in question. They go on to discuss how a sexually active girl was seen as a disappointment to her family and as a sign that her father couldn't control her. And let's be honest, the idea that a person lacks morality if they've had penetrative sex is so bizarre and unfounded, right? And so, bearing all that in mind, going back to Miley's post, this is why I think it's so good for someone like her with such a huge platform and influence on people, especially women and people with vulvas, to keep drawing our attention to the fact about virginity being a social construct. It's okay for someone like me to say it, and the, 10, 20, 30,000 of you watching this will be like, oh yeah, okay, I get it, cool. But when someone like Miley Cyrus says it, who has millions of people listening to her, yeah, some are going to be mad, but hopefully she's actually going to get through to a lot of them as well. A lot more than someone like me ever could. And sadly, or I guess helpfully, a lot more than academics who study this ever can. Sometimes we need, people like the academics with the qualifications to do the work, and then someone with a lot of influence to kind of signal boost that and get it out there to the masses and put it in a way that is simple and straightforward and that people are going to hear and listen to. And as for the image specifically, yes, it's provocative, but that is the point of art, I think an image of a red vulva with teeth is a statement about taking back control of our bodies and our sexualities and stopping feeling ashamed of our vulvas and vaginas or whatever genitals you have down there. It's about making what has previously been a body part that we were made to feel we should hide away and not talk about and be ashamed of, making that a strong, empowering body part which we are in control of. Something we should be proud of and unafraid of.